Always fun to talk with former Phillies on our show. We've had a few from that great 1993 NL championship team in the past, including Tommy Green and Kevin Stocker. And now we welcome another fan favorite to the show. But hey, you know what? Instead of me introducing him, let's have a true professional do it.
Now batting for the Phillies, number 12, second baseman, Mickey Morandini.
All right, much better. Always good to have Dan Baker do the introduction. How you doing, Mickey?
I'm doing great. Ready for this upcoming baseball season. Should be a good one.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that. We'll talk about the fundraiser event coming up later this month, later in the interview. That would be in Norristown. Pitchers, pints, and players. But we're going to talk a little Phillies baseball first. First of all, how much fun was it from your perspective as a former player watching what the 2022 Phillies did in the second half of the season, taking it right into Red October and even November?
Yeah, it definitely brought back some memories from when I played in '93. Just the atmosphere of the city, going to the ballpark. You know, for us, it was 55,000 screaming fans at Vet Stadium. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go to most of the home games, and the place was just electric. And I think we all know that. How the fans were kind of yearning for a team to get into the playoffs. It had been, a long time since 2011. So it was super exciting. The way they were winning ball games late, hitting home runs. It was definitely a lot of fun.
Of course, since the season ended a couple of wins shy of where the Phillies and us fans would have liked to have seen them go, Dave Dombrowski and company have really made some huge moves. Among other things, of course, they signed the free agent shortstop Trey Turner. How good is Turner, and how's he going to fit in with this Phillies team?
I think, one, he's really, really good, and he brings a lot to the table for this team. A possible leadoff hitter. Obviously, he brings a guy that can steal 40 or 50 bases, very good defensive shortstop, and just an all-around good guy. He'll be great for that clubhouse. But just a guy we needed, especially now with Bryce being out for a couple of months while he's had the surgery, recovering from that. It'll be nice to get another bat in the lineup and someone that can help carry the team until Bryce gets back.
They also added starting pitcher Taijuan Walker, the former New York Met, and really beefed up the bullpen as well with three good additions to join Sir Anthony Dominguez and Jose Alvarado. They got veteran right-hander Craig Kimbrell and lefties Matt Strum and Gregory Soto. They got some relievers who can really bring the heat.
Yeah, they really did a nice job of securing that bullpen. A lot of guys that can throw the ball hard. And that seems to be the theme nowadays in the big leagues is you want your bullpen to be able to, get a lot of strikeouts, miss bats, things like that. And they have five guys down there that definitely do that. Hopefully we can get a good version of Kimbrell. He's struggled a little bit the last couple of years, but if we can get a version of him that has been in the past, this bullpen can be very, very dominating.
Yeah, the Phillies went from having a historically bad pen a couple of years ago to maybe having one of the best, so we shall see. Hope it works out. Mickey, I heard you say in an interview a couple of years ago, well, two things. You're not a fan of how prevalent analytics is in baseball today, and you miss the days of small ball, moving guys over with sacrifice bunts, etc. Do you still feel that way?
I do. I just, and I'm an old school guy, and you're going to find all the old school guys are big on, they're not big on analytics, and all the new school guys are. And I get it. And I think analytics has a place in the game because there is a lot of valuable information that we get from analytics. I just sometimes think it's way too much information, and at times it can be confusing for the players. But I'm just an old school guy that, for me, baseball was moving runners, stealing bases, suicide squeezes. I miss the players taking a guy out at second base to save a double play, or the collision at home plate. And I know what they're doing. I know they're trying to keep these players safe, and I get that. But that was baseball to me, and I kind of miss those days. I think that's what made baseball really exciting, with those types of plays. And we just don't see enough of it now.
Yeah. Well, you didn't play with these guys, but Jimmy Rollins is on the Hall of Fame ballot now for a second year, and Chase Utley is going to be on the ballot next year. Of course, key guys from that 2006 through 11 Philly squad that, was so great. 2008 World Series championship, of course. Do either of those guys have any real shot at getting to Cooperstown, and which one is more deserving?
I think Jimmy's got a better shot. Just the longevity. Chase had some really, really good years, but some injuries played a role in that. I think Jimmy, you stack his numbers up with any other of the shortstops that are already in. He's right there. So I think Jimmy's got a pretty good chance to get in. I'm not so sure about Chase.
Mickey, last year, two guys integral to that 1993 Phillies team left us. The architect of the team, GM Lee Thomas, and setup man David West, who was just terrific in the seventh and eighth innings in '93. Any particular memories of those two guys?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, David was really key for us that year. He led us in appearances, was that lefty we needed coming out of the bullpen to close down some innings. He did a fabulous job and just an all-around great guy. And he had the same that we're going to talk about, I think, in a few minutes here, the same brain cancer that Darren Daulton had. So,
yeah.
And we've had several Phillies that have had this cancer. So there's some questions there about why all these Phillies are getting this type of brain cancer. And then Lee Thomas, just a great GM. And I think what he really did in '93 was he had the opportunity to go out and get a couple of really big free agent names, but he kind of backed off of that. And he went out and just got good, solid baseball players, Inky and, Milt Thompson and Eisenreich and Danny Jackson and those types of players. They weren't superstars, but they were very solid veteran players. And we did that platoon system in '93 in left field, right field, and second base, and it worked. And Lee Thomas really constructed that team very, very well.
Hey, you were with the Cubs in 1998. You had a terrific season yourself, probably your best season statistically. And you were a teammate of that Sammy Sosa fellow who was going neck and neck all year with Mark McGwire. And I believe the Cubs were playing McGwire's Cardinals when he broke the home run record. What was that season like from your perspective, being eyewitness to that epic home run battle?
Yeah, it was a really fun season. It was my first year in Chicago, and in a way, I had to replace a legend there in Ryan Sandberg. He had retired the year before, and that's why they needed a second baseman there. I got traded for Dougie Glanville, who came to Phillies and really put together some really good years too. So the trade really worked out for both teams, but just an incredible year. I remember Sammy hitting 20 home runs in June, and then we get to mid to late August, and they're up there in the 40s and home runs, and they just started going off back and forth. And I remember they used to have scoreboards and all the away scoreboards that we would go to, and you'd see the McGwire Sosa home run battle up on the scoreboards, and you'd see McGwire hit one and take a home run lead, and then Sammy would hit one in that game. And they just kind of went back and forth, and it was really, really fun and exciting. Kind of brought baseball back because the strike had really soured a lot of people in '94, and then fans really didn't start coming back till this home run battle took place. And then, McGwire kind of took off the last week and ended up winning the home run crown that year and breaking the record. But it was a lot of fun. And it was fun for me because I got to hit in front of Sammy, and a lot of pitchers did not want to face Sammy. So I saw a lot of fastballs, a lot of good pitches, and I really attribute that to why I had such a good year that year.
Hey, we heard Dan Baker introduce you at the top of the show. Just wondering, do you enjoy saying your own name as much as guys like Dan Baker and Harry Callis did?
I'd rather have someone else say it like Harry and Dan said it. I'm not very good at it, but it's just one of those names. It's got a lot of syllables, and it just flowed very well coming out of Harry and Dan's mouth. But those guys kind of put me on the map because the way they said my name, I got a lot of fans from that. And I when I go out in the city now, I'm the Phillies team ambassador, so I do a lot of appearances and things like that. And when I go out in the city, I get people come up to me and they try and say that name like Dan and Harry used to say it. So it's a lot of fun for me.
You were out at the Delco event that I met you at last summer over at Dolan's Pub. That was a great time. All right, we have another terrific event coming up later this month that we want to talk about. It is a benefit for the Darren Daulton Foundation, and it is at Von C Brewing in Norristown. It's called Pitchers, Pints, and Players. It's Friday the 27th, starting at 7 p.m., and I know it's going to be a great event. Before we talk about the event itself, we always hear about how great a leader Dutch was. How so?
Yeah, he was. He was a father figure to me because he had been in the big leagues for 6 or 7 years before I got caught up. And he really taught me a lot about the game, how to deal with the media here in Philadelphia, how to play hurt, how to do all these different types of things as a teammate. And he not only cared about winning, he was very passionate about winning, but he cared about his teammates. And when you went out there and did something you weren't supposed to do on the field, he would bring you aside and talk to you and tell you what you did wrong and how to fix it and things like that. And he was just an unbelievable team leader. And I remember Jim Fregosi was the manager of the team. He really didn't have to take charge of this team because Darren Daulton would kind of nip everything in the butt before it came an issue. So that was, I will state to this day that he is the best team leader I've ever been involved with since I've been playing the game of baseball or following it.
So the event on the 27th, Pitchers, Pints, and Players. First, I'm excited about it because I'm a craft beer fan, and I've heard great things about Von C in Norristown. But secondly, the event itself, I know it's going to be terrific. Phillies Director of Fun and Games, John Brazier, will MC the event with some help from Tom Burgoyne, who happens to be a close personal friend of the Philly fanatic. And some Phillies alumni will be there as well. I know you're going to be there. Do you know who else might show up?
Yeah, I got some names in front of me. Ruben's going to be there, Don Carmen, Steve Geld, Sticky Knowles, Ricky Batalico, Mike Mamula is going to pop in and say hi. So, yeah, we're going to have like a question answer with the crowd. There's going to be a lot of good beers to drink, a lot of great food there. And it's just another way of us to try and raise some money for the Daulton Foundation, because we're doing a great job of helping people, families deal with brain cancer. And, you know, we have this outing, and we've done an outing at Live where we've had guest bartending and things like that. We have a huge golf tournament in the fall. So we've been able to raise a lot of money and help out a lot of people that need it.
And there will be live music courtesy of the Philly-based alternative rock band Bonehead, featuring frontman Jay Manning. For tickets for this event, the Darren Daulton event, it's called Pitchers, Pints, and Players. Go to the website, darrendaultonfoundation.org. And Mickey, before we wrap up, I got to ask you one thing, one very important thing. You grew up a little northeast of Pittsburgh, and I know you were always a big Steelers fan, but now that you've been in the Philly area for quite a while, have you come over to the side of the playoff-bound Eagles yet?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. I'm still a Steelers fan. I grew up in the 70s. I mean, I was in my 12, 13, 14 years old in the 70s. And that's when they were winning those 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. So I will always be a Steelers fan. But being that they're in another conference, I think it's okay for me to be an Eagles fan too. So absolutely, I root for the Eagles. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching Hurts play this year. I think he's going to be an incredible quarterback. He made great strides this year. It's a fun team to watch. It was unfortunate he got hurt there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I really think he was going to get that MVP. I'm not so sure now because he's missed some games, but I'm definitely pulling for the Eagles and hope they can bring home another championship to the city, because we know how these fans here in Philadelphia rally around their sports teams.
I perfectly understand. I will let you slide on that one. Hope to see you on the 27th at the Darren Daulton Foundation event. It's at Von C in Norristown. Mickey Morandini, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.